well-being of the American people. Alan.
Yeah, I got to stand on business. And at least we've been asking for the Democrats to do is to pick a. We cannot now be like. On the ocean of night, there's so many storms we must rise above. Can you hear the spirit calling as it's carried across the way? You're already falling, it's calling you back to base. With the different assistants, you have NGOs, you have community groups like Catholic Charities. You know, in St. Louis, you got like a Catholic Charities, you got Mosaic, you got a whole bunch of like other community-based groups that offer immigrant assistance and refugee assistance and asylum assistance, and you also have like government and state entities that offer that too. So your lawyer.
They're outside of the bar talking, and she looks up in the sky, and she says, I think her friend says, "What are you looking at?" And she says, "Why do you think all the planes are flying like that?" And
the idea is that when the world seems unstable and one place is unclear or threatened, that undermines meaning. He uses the words wisdom famine, that Western culture has a wisdom famine.
And I can tell you that that's very deep in Eitz Chaim. It's not, that's very, this, what's it called? I think this 50-something sections to Eitz Chaim, if I remember offhand. So it's very.
To work.
I give to you the seeker of serenity, the protector of Italian virginity, the enforcer of our Lord God, the one, the only.
Reverend Scott. Reverend.
Uncle Steve.
It's been a heck of a show. How many souls have been in so far?
525 souls have come.
Amazing. I love that.
It's remarkable.
And right now we have over 40 souls on the ship right now. So I'm getting out of the captain's chair. You are the XO. Go ahead and slide on in and keep it straight and true.
I need to say something before you leave and go on your break, Scott.
Yes, sir.
So I moved horrible down to the audience because he put a very horrible thing in the chat about Cora, and that revokes his right to speak as far as I'm concerned.
I have no problem with that. Just don't kick him from the room until you check with me first, and we will tell you horrible if you keep putting derogatory things. We don't tolerate disrespect. You will be kept from the room. We have no problem with talking about issues. You can say that the issues are good or bad, but when you insult, that's going to get you kicked from the room. JCC, thank you for taking care of the heavy lifting.
Excellent, JCC. Way to go. Thank you for keeping the decorum up to the standard we expect here at Ask the Atheist. So before we go to the new speakers, I'm going to just play a quick public service announcement from my governor, Josh Shapiro.
J.D. Vance is a total phony. And let me explain why. J.D. Vance rose to some prominence by writing a book about growing up in Appalachia, where there's a whole lot of people who get snapped. He made millions of dollars on the backs of telling their stories, and then he turned his damn back on those very people who he likes to write about and claim as his own.
It's an absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do in the midst of a Democrat government shutdown. Which what we'd like to do is for the Democrats to open up the government. Of course, then we can fund SNAP. We can also do a lot of other good things for the American people. But in the midst of a shutdown, we can't have a federal court telling the president how he has to triage the situation.
Yes, friends. You heard a little bit from the vice president and from my governor, the great Josh Shapiro. What a wonderful governor and just a great guy, in my opinion. Proud to have him leading my state. Let's go to the great one. El Normo, always great to see a great one. What do you want to talk about with your fresh five?
Well, I'm almost done with my coffee, Reverend Scott. So I don't know if I'm prepared to. I wish I could show you what it looks like. It's a work of art. I'm not going to kid you. First, I heat some milk in the microwave with a little sugar in it. And then I use a foamer, like a spinner, to spin it up so it creates a foam. And then I drip 3 scoops worth of coffee, or I drip hot water through 3 scoops worth of coffee, a mixture of different coffees, and some cardamom. And it is an incredible work of art. I'm going to drink some of it. I will say I'd be interested to know how you feel that your governor is governing, that Shapiro is governing. So I don't know if you're willing to have a convo about these things. I haven't heard much from him. He was a bit of a star when he was a potential vice presidential candidate. And of course, many feel that had Kamala Harris selected him as her running mate, let's just say that the likelihood that you would have won Pennsylvania with that formula, with that combo, was greater. Do you think Harris would have won Pennsylvania if she'd run with Josh Shapiro?
Maybe. I mean, his approval rating right now is at 60% in the state, which is pretty good. In a state with a lot of Republicans. And so I think he's doing a good job. I think, could he have won? Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe it would have delivered Pennsylvania. I mean, I don't know that it would have delivered. Some people think that, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, states like these fall together, I don't know. It's a really good question, Norm. I do think it was why. I think for his I think he's a potential. He could be our first Jewish president. I think it was very smart for him to stay off that ticket because I think he would have been damaged goods. Even if they had won Pennsylvania, maybe you still lose the election. And I think it's great that he stayed in Pennsylvania as governor, and he is. I think presidential timber, and I think because he won statewide in Pennsylvania and continues to have a good approval rating. This is when I think where Newsom is not as strong a candidate. I don't think it's as good of a qualifier to be somebody that won statewide in California, because you don't have to get Republican votes the same way you do to win in Michigan or Pennsylvania. So those are my thoughts, El Normo.
And my very quick thoughts, just my opinion, the American public will bring a woman to be president or vice president before a Jew, but that's just my very quick thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think some see her reluctance to pick the more popular candidate, i.e. Josh Shapiro in a swing state, as anti-Semitism for sure. So that backfired on her. Some people see it that way. I'm not saying that I do. By the way, I'm sure our very good friend, Sofran Mamdani, I'm sure he has presidential aspirations.
I just cannot imagine Mamdani being unless the country really changes, and that's not to say that, I said this, I was on a podcast with Gary Baumgarten yesterday. He does a podcast on his Substack, and I was saying that, look, I think somebody with that democratic socialist energy like Bernie Sanders could be good for the left, but not as the mayor of New York. I mean, I'm not convinced that this guy just has the basic chops to run a city that complex. If you put a guy like that in the Senate, they can be a movement builder. They can bring energy to the party and to the left. without having the sort of responsibility of governing a massive, complex reality like New York. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. Right? I think Bernie Sanders has been good for the country, moved the Overton window, particularly on healthcare. Bernie's not an accomplished senator. I don't think he's ever sponsored a piece of legislation. But he's an effective communicator and movement guy, right? So he doesn't have to be super effective to move the political discourse. That's not the same thing as New York, Norman. I'll be praying for you and my friends up there that the city does not fall apart.
So it's already started. I could tell last night, well, actually, I could tell on Tuesday night, because he immediately transformed, did Mamdani. The mask fell. He got really angry, and he was threatening the president, saying that if you want to come for any of us, you have to come through all of us. And he was yelling at it in a provocative way. It's a very weird thing to do when you win. Usually when you win, you take that one moment and you say, oh, it's so great. He'll say, I'm going to be the mayor of all the people, whether or not you voted for me. That's just something you say. He wasn't saying that. He was saying that he was inviting Donald Trump to a street fight already.
Well, what your schoolmate David Axelrod said on a podcast was that he also didn't realize. I mean, he said, when they have the DNC speakers, they have speech coaches that work with them because they tend to want to shout because the room is so big, and the coaches have to tell them, you're talking to the TV audience, right? You don't shout at this big audience in this big hall. Your audience is the TV. You're amplified. Don't project. Don't overmodulate. And nobody coached him that way. He was shouting.
Yeah.
And again, I agree with you that it was not a conciliatory tone, and the shouting made it worse.
Yeah, he seemed a little unhinged. And I'll tell you, last night already, I saw the beginnings of ICE protests. And not in a kind of spiritual way. There have been immigration protests outside the building where they adjudicate immigration cases in Lower Manhattan. There have been religious people like you, Scott. Christians, I'm pretty sure, like Quakers or something, one of those kind of, we can talk about what these guys are. They're sort of social justice OGs. Quakers. It's an interesting topic, and you probably know something about it. So they quietly, they hold hands and they walk around the block. They've been doing it for decades. But the recent ICE protests seem to include Antifa folks all dressed in black and masked up, and they get really pushy and violent with the cops, and they throw things. And I've already seen some very elaborate graffiti over the bus shelters, where the whole bus shelter has been painted over in black with an elaborate marks a lot. What do you call it? Magic marker, or maybe it's spray can painting. Stop ICE. But the whole thing, it's been rebranded, the entire bus shelter. It's like, that took hours to do. And this person had no fear that there would be a consequence for this graffiti. We have had graffiti in New York contained since Giuliani, because if it's everywhere, it gives the feeling of a broken, out of control, chaotic city. If it's only in certain areas like Bushwick, it's come to be sort of the graffiti neighborhood where you go and make beautiful art on the buildings. That's kind of great, and all the building owners agree to it. But I already got a sniff of that lawlessness. I think it's going to get really dangerous in New York, because he's not a pro-cop guy, and the cops don't want to be bothered by him. And I don't think Tisch will last until summer. When I say Tisch, I'm talking about a well-regarded leader, commissioner of police, Jessica Tisch, who ironically comes from a wealthy family, the Tisch family. They endow schools and school buildings, and they're a wealthy New York Jewish family. But she decided she wanted to really work for a living. She didn't go into hedge funds. She didn't become, start her own little fashion company or something. No, I believe she was sanitation commissioner before she did this. She wants to know how the city works, and she wants to be a part of government. That's sort of the old school patrician approach. If you're rich, you have a responsibility to serve. That's definitely where she's coming from. So we'll see if an effective leader like Jessica Tisch will stay on board under so far a wild card. The Democratic Socialist, Zohran Mamdani. We had a Democratic Socialist mayor before. Many people don't know. You know who it was?
Oh, yeah, because Mamdani quoted him. I forget his name, but he didn't quote him in this.
No, that's not who. The previous Democratic Socialist mayor was none other than David Dinkins.
Dinkins, right.
And I used to party with him.
Reverend Scott, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say I love hearing Norm speak, but we have other people on stage that I think want to speak to you instead of me. So it's up to you, Reverend.
Norm, thank you very much, my friend. I'm going to move on. Thank you for
Thank you.
My prayers are with you and the folks in your fair city.
Hey, Scott, I want to get in the queue when you're at some point as well.
Why you want to respond to Norm?
It's I think it is complicated. I think that these guys run on certain issues. I think Mamdani is going to come. I'm actually meeting with me this week. It should be interesting. I think that he's going to come into office and realize that the city in and of itself is set up so that no one person rules too much power. It's like the city council actually controls and approves most, if not all, of the city's budget. And there are very powerful unions in the city, not only the police union, but the teachers union. He did win, and he didn't seem to have to court these unions. I actually think Tisch will stay because I think Tisch's relationship with the rank and file cops seems to be going very well. I don't think that New York City, being the financial capital of the world, is going to be in dire straits because I don't think Mamdani can do as much as people think Mamdani can do as mayor.
Thank you, Daryl. Lots of voices from New York. Great to hear our New Yorker friends. I'm going to go on to some of the new speakers. I want to go to candidate for Congress, John Kitover. John, candidate, how are things on the election trail? Would you like a fresh five?
Sure, thanks, Scott. Things are going good. We had over 1,650 signatures on our petitions we submitted last month. I submitted with my mom. She flew in from Albuquerque. We drove to Springfield. We dropped off the petitions, and then we went to Lincoln's tombstone in Springfield, the giant obelisk where he lays in rest with his family members. I guess my question is, since this is the atheism house, I'm just wondering, do atheists have priorities of communication? Because God, in my opinion, deals with intelligence. You might say supreme intelligence. And so my question is, a lot of Clubhouse users who claim that they are atheists, I'm just wondering, is there a priority of intelligent communication in your lives?
I would like to answer that.
Absolutely.
And I can't speak for all atheists, but I can speak for myself being an atheist for over 20 years. My priority in communication is honesty. All of my rooms for the past 4 years have been on replay, and you will see that my feelings, thoughts, opinions, and facts going back 4 years are honest. Unlike you, unfortunately, when you have been on the show and when you have communicated with me before, you have said one thing, and then weeks, months, if not years later, you have said another. Now, of course, you've commented on that before, that you were joking or not serious. But then again, I don't think you're an atheist. I don't know. You can clarify that. But the answer to your question, for me and only me, I am honest and sincere, unlike you. Back to you, Reverend Scott.
Thank you for that, Uncle Stephen. Do any other atheist moderators want to comment about your communication priorities, or are you guys good?
I'd like to, when someone says like God is the supreme intelligence, then why does the book say he created the earth and then the sun? That doesn't sound very intelligent.
Maybe it's just not organized, Daryl. He's intelligent but not organized, disorganized. And as George Carlin reminded us, that very bad with money. He always needs money. He just always loves you and has a plan for your life, but just can't manage money.
Well, I want to reject what Steve said. I think I'm very honest. And I did, that's Steve's opinion about me. I would just say that my question dealt with intelligence. I think honesty and transparency are intelligence. So I agree with Steve in that respect. But I do not agree with his disparaging remarks about my honesty. I, don't appreciate that, Steve. And if you don't have anything nice to say about people, just don't say it. Didn't your mother ever teach you that?
Well, what my mother and father did teach me is that if you're bold enough to answer the question, you ask the question, you should be ready to hear the answer. And I can produce multiple recordings of you saying one thing and then saying something completely the opposite. So when you tell me not to say anything disparaging, I'm speaking factually correct.
Uncle Steve, like the young people say, you have receipts, you're saying.
Yes, I have receipts. Yes, I do.
They're facts, not opinions. Everything always a fact, never an opinion. Got it.
No, I'll give it. I have my opinions, but the difference between me, you, and other people is that when I have an opinion, I say, this is my opinion, or this is my crystal ball. When I say something is a fact, it's a fact. And I have receipts where you say one thing, and then the very next day, the very next week, or the very next month, you comment on the same topic and say something different. I'm speaking factually. I have not given my opinion, John, candidate, or whatever the hell your name is. I have not given my opinion today whether or not I like you, dislike you, respect you, don't respect you. I have given factually correct information, and I have the receipts to back up my fact.
Well, thank you very little.
All right, John, thank you for sharing, and good luck on the campaign trail. I want to go to my main man, another Californian, David G. David G., welcome to the stage. Would you like a fresh five to tell us what's on your mind?
No, I kind of caught the room after Reverend Norm was speaking about his new great mayor that's going to lead the city to greatness. Go Norm. No, I'm kidding. No, I think it's interesting optics having a guy like Mandami lead the city. We have our issues with our own mayor here, Karen Bass, who was, I believe, our first African-American female mayor of this great city. Recall it was Mayor Tom Bradley, who was the first black mayor, I think, to run the city. The great international airport, Tom Bradley International, is named after him. But I think Mandami was what's interesting about Mandami, Scott, and others in the room, is that he got elected with a lot of money against him and a lot of flame throwing and a lot of criticism of his positions with regard to Israel. I don't know so much the Jewish community. He was very good about framing it. I'm against the Israeli government, not my Jewish constituency. He was very good at sort of dividing that line there. Whether or not the lines are blurred in his own mind with regard to that or not remains to be seen. I believe it was about 30% of New York's Jewish electorate voted for him versus, I believe, 70, which didn't want him. So that might be a sea change in terms of giving this guy a shot. I think the young people of New York, those that want the free stuff or want the policies to be more friendly to their pocketbook, I think that is where the governing is really going to become interesting, because in Los Angeles, we see rent control playing out with disastrous results, squatters, people that don't want to pay their rent, leveraging the inability to evict. So I'm afraid that if New York goes in that direction, maybe it already has, maybe it's already there. I don't have evidences of that because I don't live there. But I'm saying that New York's a real estate city, much like LA is. Pricey real estate, vibrant economy, great universities, culture, all the things that people want to pay to be there for. You can't have people that just don't want to pay their rent or not face increases. Landlords are going to leave. So I think that there is an economic potential blowback with that. But at the same time, I think the optics of all these billionaires that run the show, we're talking about this Gilded Age again with Elon Musk cementing a $1 trillion pay package. You got Trump tearing down the West Wing or to build this ballroom. I mean, there's a lot of things that are the optics. Cutting SNAP benefits while these things are taking place. I think is why a guy like Mandami won. And I think there's going to be a groundswell of potential Mandamis. We're going to see this as their moment to go after the 1%. So with regard to Gavin Newsom, I wanted to bring that up a little bit. I think his Proposition 50, him taking that to the ballot, was a very ballsy move. I think that the fact that the people voted for it isn't a direct attack on Trump.
Hey, David, do you feel comfortable saying whether you voted for it or not?
Yeah, I'd rather not.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, just curious.
Thanks for asking. But as I've said in other rooms, I don't like the optics of having to jigger, political lines, with regard to, we have too many minorities in this district. Let's rework the lines so that we get our candidate who we know will be voted for by these constituencies. I think that's a very ominous trend. Instead of campaigning on ideas and winning with ideas and great candidates, we're relying on this sort of stuff to maintain power. And I think that's not a good look for our democracy. I feel bad for the Republicans in this state. They're going to be checkmated even further with regard to getting their ideas out. Even though Trump did have a pretty sizable response here in California, and that can be laid at the feet of the bad policies that have produced crime and homelessness. We elected a more conservative DA, and we threw out the last guy, who was many have argued a Soros acolyte, but he had these disastrous, no bail policies, misdemeanors. You can rob up to $1,000 and be a misdemeanor. People could willy-nilly go in and out of our stores and steal. So Angelenos didn't like that. We hated that. That was bad. That was a bad look. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Scott and Steve, on that, and others in the room, but I'll land there. I've said quite a bit. But I think Gavin Newsom, if he can continue to check Trump and show a sort of a muscular Democratic face versus this tepid, Schumer-esque, I would say Pelosi was weak, but, she obviously, she helmed the House pretty well there for those years. But I think we need a guy that's good looking, who's got the optics. He's going to have to answer to his record, and I'm hoping Joe Rogan brings him on his show, because I think that would definitely help clear the air with that base there. So and I think the Republicans also have another problem with this fracturing of the bro vote, right? The bro vote with Tucker Carlson giving this guy Fuentes a platform to air out his issues with the state of Israel and all of that. I think that's something that the Republicans are going to have to try to figure out, because I think that's going to come back to haunt them in a big way.
You know, Tucker has gone.
I was going to say, Reverend, why don't you comment and then I'll take over.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
And
Reverend.
David,
Yeah.
thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
being on stage. It's great to see you as always, my friend. It's so weird because Tucker used to be like the bow tie country club Republican, and now he's gone. He's becoming something like the world's oldest groyper. I don't know. It's very, very strange. I will say this, Uncle Steve. I think Mamdani, success leaves clues, as Gavin Newsom said, right? And so I think Democrats need to learn from Mamdani. The management of his social media and just dominating vertical video, amazing. The other thing, that guy stayed on message, much like Bernie Sanders, right? I mean, you could not get Mamdani off message. Guy had like 4 policy ideas. That was it. And he told, free buses, rent freezes, free child care, free grocery stores. And he just
$30 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah, and he just, he you could not knock that guy off message. Now, I mean, I think his issues with Israel and his past associations, these were problematic. But and I, personally, I mean, I'm willing to talk to anybody in another forum about my views on that stuff. But which I think most people have a sense of. But I do think, again, I think we need the Democratic Party doesn't need. People are saying, we need more moderates, more progressivism, we need more of all of it because we need to compete across the whole country. And so I think the Democratic Socialist Progressive Voice wing of the party is valuable. It's not going to win everywhere. It might not win in Omaha or Wichita or something, but I think affordability is the issue right now in the country, and people feel it. So I think Mamdani addressed that, and I think we need to learn from that. Thanks, Uncle
Hey, Steve, can I comment on this very quickly?
Yeah, you can. Just a moment. Housekeeping issue. Mods, if you will invite TA Uma up, I promised her that we'd bring her back up, give her a last shot before the end of the show, which is ending in 28 minutes. Uma, please, please, please stay on mute until we call on you, and you will get a last opportunity for a closing thought. Let me comment briefly on what was discussed, and then we'll go to Daryl. We'll give Daryl a fresh 5. I voted no on Proposition 50. I was taught a long time ago by my mom and dad that 2 wrongs don't make a right. When was the last time California ever had a proposition or a state legislation that was dependent on what another state did? None that I can recall. Had Texas not done, someone's got a hot mic, don't know who it is. I can't remember a single time, and I'll tell you this, if Texas had not done what they did with the redistricting and the gerrymandering, California would not done what we had did. I voted no. And it, of course, won overwhelmingly, almost 2-1. I want to say like 62% to 37%. And unfortunately, it's going to affect one of my most respected and very valued House of Representatives. I forgot his name. He's in District number 3. I've said his name before. I'll bring it up again before the end of the show. But he is one of those 5 districts that are going to be gerrymandered. And he's been in the state legislature. He's been in government for 10 years. He was a teacher. He's an attorney. He went to Harvard undergraduate. He went to Yale Law School. He was a state assemblyman, state senator for 6 years. And then he's doing his 2nd term right now in the House of Representatives, District number 3. And because of this districting, he very possibly may be gerrymandered. Kevin Kiley, that's it. For those of you that are not familiar with Kevin Kiley, he's young, he's 40 years old, he's a Republican. I do not consider him MAGA. I consider him a reasonable Republican. I respect him very much. I like what he's about. I like the way he votes. And I'm very sorry that there's a good chance he's going to be gerrymandered out. As far as the governorship of California, a lot of people have said that were talked about running. They're not going to run. And right now the leader with, I think, literally 11 or 12% is a sheriff, the sheriff of either Riverside or San Bernardino. He's in the lead with 11%. California is an interesting place, and I'll land it here because although we're extremely blue, we vote Democratic. The Democrats do not have a 51% majority. Last that I checked, and it could have changed, the Democrat California are between 45 and 50%. The Republican 25%. But it's the independents like me that are not affiliated with the Republican or the Democratic Party. We actually outnumber the Republicans. The independents are like 25 to 30%. So I just wanted to say that, Daryl, you can have a fresh five, and then after Daryl, we'll go to Alfonso and then Uma. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on something Dave said, and Dave made the comment about, the young people wanting everything free in the city, and I'd like to push back by saying that that's not inherently what the issue is. The issue is, since 9/11, the city has become very expensive. So I actually belong to the J.P. Morgan Alumni Association, and what we do, like once a quarter, we talk to like some of the young bankers that are coming in and fresh out of school, and some of these guys, they're making like low six figures, and they still have roommates. When I got started, you could have an income and you can go get yourself an apartment. Some of these guys are, some of these young men and women are living in apartments with 2 to 3 other roommates because the rent's $7,000 a month. And what I'm afraid of happening to the city is that if the city becomes so priced out in certain areas, New York will lose a lot of talent because people just don't want to come here because you're not making enough money to actually have a life here. They did a thing in 2005 in New York. A $20 bill would get you like something like 10 cheeseburgers from McDonald's, right? And this is probably a crappy example, but a $20 bill will get you 3 cheeseburgers now. So I just push back on the idea that young people want everything for free.
Well, no, I wasn't really saying that to your extent. I mean, I'm being hyperbolic with that comment.
Yeah, hey Dave. No, it's okay. Go on mute. Hang on. We'll give you a chance for a closing thought before the show ends. I promise. But
Okay, I just want to clarify.
No problem. Take notes on a post-it Shreve Street paper. We'll give you a couple of minutes to finish up. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Dave, I listen to you in Gary's room. I think you're a great guy. I just wanted the other folks in the room to kind of have a more nuanced idea for those who don't live in New York.
Things are unaffordable for people that are educated. And
Dave, please, if you could be so kind, stay on mute. I promise, I guarantee it, we will come back to you before the end of the show. Just take a couple of notes and you can have a few minutes to respond. Thank you.
Yeah, and so it's the city has become very expensive, which is why so many people move to the outer boroughs and have to commute in. If you're working in Lower Manhattan, have to commute in an hour or 40 minutes every day, and they're talking about raising the fares on the trains again. I think it's almost $4 now for one ride. It's the city is the people who live, work, and help the city run. These are the people that go out to restaurants that help the restaurant industry. These are the people that go to museums and buy tickets and all these other things. The very fact that we're talking now about building casinos in the boroughs as opposed to just Long Island tells you that the city is trying to figure out ways to make money. And it's going to be a little interesting the next couple of years.
However, Daryl, before I move on to our next speaker, living in the city being too expensive, this is nothing new. This has been going on for decades, hasn't it?
Yeah, but like I was saying before, it used to be if you were making about $75,000 a year, you could go get an apartment. Is it going to be the best apartment? No, but you're not making.
Well, guess what? Inflation, goods, cost, and services have gone up. So now, instead of 75, now it's a minimum of 150.
It's 150.
It's always been too expensive to live in the city. This is nothing new.
But it's 150, and you have to get 3 more roommates, and you're all making 150 because your rent's 7,000. You know.
I hear you loud and clear. If you're in the audience and you want to contribute, come up now, because in the after 5 minutes, it's going to become impossible. Let's go to Uma. Uma, welcome back. Do you have any closing thoughts you would like to share with the group?
Closing thought is always an honor. Okay, for me, it's already 41 minutes past midnight, nighttime from Thailand.
Yes.
So, if you have one last wish for us all, Uncle Steve, what would that be? Thank you.
All right, and appreciate that. We're going to give you a first-class escort to the VIP. If I have one last wish for everybody that's within the sound of my voice, it's that as you travel these clubhouse streets, when you speak and when you listen to other people, do your best to distinguish fact from opinion. You heard me speak earlier to the candidate, how I was saying, he specifically asked, when it comes to atheists, what do you value most in your communications? I specifically said I only speak for myself, but I value that I am sincere, consistent, and speak the truth. What is the truth? Well, when I give my opinion, it is not only my opinion, but is a consistent opinion, and I identify it as such. When I identify it as a fact, that means it should not be disputed. Otherwise, it's not a fact. That being said, let's say hello to Leroy. Leroy, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. You have a fresh 5. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Thank you. I am truly grateful that I moved to New York City in 1977. And from 1977 to 2004, a young boy comes out of the South, poor with nothing. I was able to afford, I had like how many apartments? Oh my God. I moved from the Bronx over at Yankee Stadium, and then I moved from there over to Parkside Avenue, not far from the Brooklyn Museum and all that. And then I moved to Clinton Hill, Fort Greene. And because it was so affordable for me to move around like that, I ended up getting a job working at a nursing home, Beth Abraham Hospital on Arlington Avenue. And that stabilized me enough to have a family and then eventually find myself a career as an individual artist. And New York City was so amazing. You can go to Greenwich Village and so on and so forth and live well. However, I was able to buy a brownstone for about $300,000 on DeKalb Avenue across from Fort Greene Park.
What year approximately? What year?
96.
And if you feel comfortable, what is that $300,000 brownstone worth now? Almost, I guess.
$10 million.
Is that 30 years later? 96, 06, that's almost 30 years later, from 300,000 to 10 million. Please continue.
10 million. The taxes, I wouldn't have been able to afford it, but however, I think my blessing in my life would have probably found a way. The point I'm making is that when we was in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, near Pratt Institute and Brooklyn Academy of Music, the art community was strong there. The landlord used to work with the artist community, and we were thriving. All the businesses was being supported. People really, and we could go in and out the city. It was so amazing. The city now is so dead to me. All that vibrancy, all that young energy, we were able to afford and keep these buildings looking great until the landlords say, oh, well, you know what, it's time to make some money. And they pushed everybody, all the people who were working and middle class just had to get out of there. And now the city is it lacks luster.
So I'm grateful I was able to be there at that time to find my, to have some children, have a stable job, be able to move around in all these apartments and brownstones to where I became an owner and a successful businessman. And, I'm grateful that I'm still a successful businessman as a result of the New York life that afforded me the opportunity to be able to grow my life, grow myself, grow my family. And I'm sorry for a lot of people that's there now because they can't afford it. They just freaking can't. It's just too much. And they want to be in the New York life. So, I mean, for what it's worth, I think the city needs some kind of consideration to bring back some of that element, if possible. I don't know if Madani is the guy that's going to be able to do it, but I think it's a very powerful statement in terms of his win of what the matter is and what needs to be attended to, because it can't stay like that. It just looks like it's going to be a big ghost town with a lot of rich people to me, and that's my comment.
Thank you very much. First class escort to the VIP. Thank you. Housekeeping issue to my mod squad. Guys, I've said it before. If you don't remember, it's okay. If you want to remove someone from the room for whatever reason, I very much appreciate the mod squad chat, but just at the appropriate time, say it verbally. I'm not always checking. I believe it's Cora. I saw your recommendation in the mod squad chat. Answer is yes. Please go ahead, remove that person from the room. But in the future, just verbalize it at the appropriate time. It'll probably get things done faster, although that was probably pretty quick. Another housekeeping issue. We're coming down to the end, 13 minutes left. Don't invite anybody else up. Let's go to the candidate. And by the way, the candidate is a perfect example of how I am consistent and run the show. I've said it a gazillion times. I don't care if I like you. I don't care if I don't like you. I don't care if you agree with me or you disagree with me. As long as you're respectful, which the candidate is, he is more than welcome to come in the room and get his fresh five, which he already got. And now he gets his closing thought and burning desire. Candidate, would you like to say goodbye?
Thanks, Steve. I think all of us on this app, consistently repattern ourselves into this app and all these relationships and communication exchanges we have. And I just want to read, for 60 seconds, some quotations.
Yes, and by the way, I've been consistent about this. Anybody is entitled to read for 60 seconds, and then if it takes more than that, you can paraphrase. You can read for 60 seconds.
Okay, if you're given a choice between money and sex, appeal, take the money. As you get older, the money will become your sex appeal. Nothing is more difficult and therefore more precious than to be able to decide. It is easier to find men who will volunteer to die than to find those who are willing to endure pain with patience. Errors of haste are seldom committed singly. The first time a man always does too much, and precisely on that account he commits a second error, and then he does too little. It isn't enough to talk about peace, one must believe in it, and it isn't enough to believe in it, one must work at it. Humility is no substitute for a good personality. What I don't like about office Christmas parties is looking for a job the next day. That's Phyllis Diller. America is an enormous frosted cupcake in the middle of millions of starving people. Time. A long habit of not thinking a thing wrong gives it a superficial appearance of being right. Thomas Paine. He that fights and runs away may turn and fight another day, but he that is in battle slain will never raise to fight again. That's Tacitus. So, we have 30 to 60 seconds to exchange information with each other. And I, just like reading books, because if I am in charge of my communication management, I just want high value intelligence. And therefore, it becomes a book club. And that's my criticism of atheists, is that they're refusing to participate in a high-value information exchange using books in a book club. I would just encourage you all. I have a house here on Clown House called Book Club. I read books every single morning of the week for about an hour, usually sacred spiritual texts, which deal with the self, which is really personal development.
and self-development and self-analysis or self-actualization. I like to consider myself as a self-actualization comedian or a self-actualization politician. And all I'm trying to say is that stillness, silence, peace, joy can be held and had by all, but you have to choose to create that sacred space for yourself of contentment through content. And this app is so full of neurotic thinking, compulsive thinking, never-ending thinking, that until you slow down and get into a quiet space, it is dialectic ASMR or neuro-linguistic programming. That's my point. No one can prove there's a God. No one can touch, taste, feel, or smell unless you think everything is an extension of the God. The all, this phone, this conversation, the coffee in my mouth. It's, there's a Yiddish expression, alles ist Gott. All is God. And so if, as an atheist, you deny that sentiment that all is God, I don't know what ground you have to stand on. You call yourself a moral superior, you have moral superiority and social justice, virtue signaling on a whole range of topics, but yet you deny the existence of everything because you say there is no God. So all I'm trying to say is meditation and books or poetry is a great way to experience your great journey. Thank you.
I'm going to follow that up. Normally I would drop you as anybody else to the audience, but I'm going to follow that up with a couple of questions. Have you ever heard me once say today or at any time since you've known me, which has been a couple of years on Clubhouse, that I am morally superior to anybody? Have you ever heard me say that once?
Addressing you specifically, I was talking earlier.
You addressed atheists. I'm an atheist. Have you? I assume that's a no, because I can tell you all, I have never once said I am morally superior to anybody. Now,
Uncle Steve, I'm pretty sure you're morally superior to me.
Other people have said that. I have not said that.
I know you, so I'm comfortable saying that.
Okay. Number two, since I've known you, I have blocked about 18 of your different accounts because I only want to deal with one candidate. When you say you want to have, I'm paraphrasing now, open, honest, intelligent discussions, I don't know how putting together at least 18 different profiles does that. And last but not least, I've heard you say since I've known you over 100 times that all, quote, all communication is hypnosis, close quote. Let me repeat that. Since I've known you, I've heard you say over 100 times, and I have the receipts, all communication is hypnosis, close quote. So here's my last question for you to answer intelligently, hopefully. If indeed all communication is hypnosis, are you using hypnosis to try and get people to vote for you?
If I believe that all communication is hypnosis, I believe that I'm exchanging high information, high value information or intelligence with voters, well then hopefully they'll vote with me because they respect and appreciate my truthful intelligence that I'm trying to share with them. But Steve, I've had 100 Clubhouse accounts because I record everything I do here and put it on multiple platforms, much to the dismay of many other users who end up getting recorded and resent the fact that I record myself or use my cell phones in the way that I choose to use my cell phones. It may be a little eccentric, but nonetheless, this is an art project that I have chosen to pursue. And all I can say is, Steve, you have created great content for me, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. And you run a professional room. But it's your show, and I respect that. And the thing is, what I said about the book club and about enlightenment or meditation, I'm just a broken record repeating myself on this app, as well as everyone else. We're just repeating a pattern. And that's all I really have to say, and I hope everybody has a great day.
First class escort to the VIP, quote, I'm just a broken record repeating myself, close quote. Those are the facts. I will let all of you decide for yourself. Let's go. You know what? Andrew is here. I don't think Andrew has spoken yet. Andrew, please unmute. Have you spoken yet?
No, I have
You,
not.
you know what? We're going to go OT. Andrew, I'm going to give you a fresh five, my friend and neighbor to the north. Good morning, Andrew. It's a pleasure to see you back on the show, everybody. We're going to go OT. Andrew, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I had a few things, but many of them have gone away. I just want to comment a little bit about some of the things that I've heard this morning. In regards to your shutdown, I really sympathize with the American people that are suffering. And I think maybe you might want to consider changing your form of government from the Republican format, which you have now, that your founding fathers passed on to you, to more of the Westminster-style parliamentary system that we have here in Canada and the United Kingdom. For one reason, and this is the reason, this kind of thing that you are experiencing in the United States does not happen here. It cannot happen here. Because and I'll give you an example, it's recent too. Justin Trudeau was our Prime Minister not more than 9 months ago. He hadn't passed a budget since spring of 2024, so we're talking 18 months. But the government continues on. Generally, we expect a budget in the spring. That didn't happen. We had an election. So then we expected maybe the Carney government would put out a budget. They didn't. They just did the other day. So we're talking 18 months. But things don't shut down. People aren't, losing programs, losing benefits. We're just waiting until a budget is passed. So that budget was tabled in the House of Commons. Now, the Liberal government, as we have now in Canada, is a minority government, which means they don't have enough seats by themselves to pass any legislation whatsoever. It has to go to the House of Commons and it's voted on. If they do not get that legislation passed, that's considered a non-confidence vote, and we would go to an election because the House has no confidence in the ruling or the party that has the most seats.
And I'm going to interrupt you very quickly. In your country, you vote for parties. You do not vote for individuals. Please continue.
Well, that's not quite true.
Oh, I thought it was. I apologize. I must be wrong. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Well, you vote for parties too.
No, that's not true. In our general election, it doesn't matter what party we vote for. We vote for an individual.
Yeah, so do I.
Oh, okay.
I have a constituency here, and there's 3, 4, 5, 6 candidates running. I vote for one of those candidates. If they're a conservative and I'm not a conservative, I'm not going to vote for the conservative candidate unless he's got some really, really strong local policies that are going to affect me here personally. But and then those are political, calculations that people make every day during an election, who they're going to vote for. So no, we vote for an individual, and that party then, if he's a conservative, he takes that to the House of Commons and sits as a conservative with the rest of them. But so we don't shut down. Our government continues on. There's continuity, and then we just wait to see when the next election is going to be. So, as I said, we just had a budget that was tabled, and it slightly passed, because I don't think anybody wants to go in an election right now. We just had one. So there's a political calculation that people are making. In terms of Mount Danny, I think this is really, it's going to be a disrupting force, but I think it's probably a force for good, because the affordability crisis, we have it here too. We have it in most places, I think, around the world. You look, at least in the Western world, there's an affordability crisis. And things are out of reach. They're not just like, you got to work hard to get. They're out of reach for most people, especially the young. They don't, they're walking into a situation that their parents didn't and their grandparents didn't walk into. They had a chance. I think the chances are very, very slim now for most young people. And so what alternative do you have? This is a repudiation of unbridled capitalism with a 1% totally filthy rich and the rest of us struggling to scrape by. And as long as that continues, you're going to eventually, and I told this to my sister many, many, many years ago. I said, there's a revolution coming. I don't know when, I don't know how it'll be, but I think we're seeing some of that now. There's a revolution against this oligarchy, whatever you want to call it, where people have just such enormous sick wealth, and the rest of us are just struggling. And my final word is, I had a great experience last night, tremendously nervous. My football team was in the Western Final to go to the Grey Cup. They were down by 7 points with 63 seconds left, and with 14 seconds left, they scored a touchdown, taking them into the lead, and they are now going to the Grey Cup. So I'm very happy about that. I had to have a beer right after that, which was late, but that was okay. So thank you very much, Uncle Steve. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you on the Clubhouse streets. Oh, and the other thing, you know, on Clubhouse, just curate your friends. You know, if they're really bizarre and way out there, then, you know, keep your distance.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I just say one thing to Andrew?
Yeah.
I think his criticisms of our form of government are really helpful. I think that without even going full Westminster parliamentary in nature, if we just got rid of the filibuster, this wouldn't happen, right? I mean, you wouldn't be able to hold things hostage like this. This is a simple procedural rule that we could get rid of, and that would go a long way to making government better. But and you know what? I would take, as a Democrat, I would take a loss on this healthcare subsidy thing if we could get rid of the filibuster, because long term, I think that would be for great government.
And before we move on, I'm on ChatGPT, and again, ChatGPT is not always 100% correct, but let me take 60 seconds to read to you what's on ChatGPT, so take it for what it's worth. Quote, in Canada, you do not vote directly for the Prime Minister. Here's how it works. Voters cast a ballot for a local candidate in their federal electoral district, and then it says, in parenthesis, writing, that candidate may represent a political party or may run as an independent. The party that wins the most seats in the House of Commons of Canada, often a majority of seats, then forms the government. The leader of that winning party is invited by the Governor General of Canada, the Crown's representative, to become Prime Minister. So in short, you vote for an individual candidate in your riding, but the decision about who becomes Prime Minister is indirectly based on which party gets the most seats, who leads that party. Again, I would never disagree with Andrew. Andrew comes on, he's a friend of the show, a neighbor to the north. He clearly knows a hell of a lot more about Canada and the politics than I do. I'm just repeating what ChatGPT says, so take it for what it's worth. Let's go to David. David, would you like to say goodbye?
Well, I just wanted to, while I was listening and hanging out, I was going through my New York Times Sunday edition today, and there was an advertisement taken out on page 16 by the general manager of strategic think tank in Amman, Jordan, a gentleman by the name of Hazem Salim Damor, and he's calling out the White House for hosting the president of Syria tomorrow, where billions of dollars in rebuilding contracts are going to be probably entered into. He frames this gentleman, this new president that Trump, basically has embraced, as being on par with bin Laden.
Hopefully when he's in the White House, he doesn't pass out on the White House floor like that other person from the medical industry did a couple of days ago, but please continue.
Well, no, I'm pointing out this advertisement because, we're attacking Mondami pretty severely, and yet, he's an American. He was schooled here. He's now been elected to arguably one of the most important cities in the world. And, we're creating common cause and giving, he was on the terrorist list as of July of this year. So anyway, I think if we can give this guy some grace and say, hey, we can help rebuild your nation, and you're not going to turn your guns on us or the state of Israel and our friends, I don't think Mandami rises to the level of what this guy was and what he represented as an enemy of us, and the terrorist soul that he exacted running the show over there. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know how it adds to the room or not adds to the room, and then also recall the business dealings that Trump entered into with Qatar.
I'm gonna give you 30 seconds because
I'm right here. But yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying that we, just because one might have a certain religious persuasion, does not necessarily mean that you're gonna, met out the stereotypes that oftentimes are assigned to you, or let's just see what happens. So I'll end there.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are rushed for time. Norm, I can give you 60 seconds tops if you want to say goodbye.
Very well. As with the previous speaker, anybody who doesn't know how much a subway ride costs is not a New Yorker. It's $2.90. And if you're handicapped or need money, you can go for half. That's $1.45. That's a pretty good deal. The idea of free anything, and the major components of this guy, Mamdani's campaign, were free stuff, namely free buses and free childcare, I think up to the age of 9. And I got a breaking news bulletin for you. The rents are not going to come down. The best he can do is slow the increase in rent or freeze the increase in rent of rent-stabilized apartments. Regular people don't get rent-stabilized apartments. They're a precious commodity. That's 25% of the housing stock. New York has already started to become dirty, dangerous, and broken as it has been in the past. I've lived through it. I know how to survive under those circumstances. What happens is poor people die. That's what happens. Poor people, black and brown people, die and are burglarized because the law isn't enforced. Go look at some of the old movies like The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Pelham 1, 2, 3, yes.
Or Fort Apache, the Bronx. People had 15 locks. I'm not exaggerating. 15 series of locks on their door, plus bars and stuff against the door, because people would just burst into their apartments and kill them, as happened to a friend of mine. Most people in New York had been victims of crime around the time when the other Democratic socialist who was trying to run the city and failed, David Dinkins, was mayor. So again, we're ready for it. Mamdani will become the best friend Trump ever had, because all he'll do is point at the man who ruins New York once again and laugh and double over, as all the Republicans will. He's now become a foil for the Republicans, sadly. And if that's what it takes to get New York back on track, then so be it. We'll put up for 4 years.
Thank you, Norm. Appreciate that. First class escort to the VIP. Again, I am rushing to get out of here. Mod Squad, normally we'd go to each of you individually, but does any of the Mod Squad have a closing thought or burning desire? Because I am literally rushing to get out of here. If you feel like you have to say something, unmute. If not, I'm just going to go to Reverend Scott. Reverend, would you like to take 60 seconds?
What can I say? By the way,
How many souls?
I think we're at a record today. 781 souls through the doors today, and just remarkable. I think it's been a great show, and and we've had a great weekend. And thank you, Uncle Steve, for creating a space where the nieces and nephews and the mods can come together to share what's on our hearts and minds. It's awesome.
I humbly apologize to all of the mods. I'll say goodbye on their behalf. Violet, Daryl. Oh, by the way, Daryl, I know for a fact that Daryl is a New Yorker, minimum 15 years. I don't know if any of the prior comments were addressed to him, but Daryl, and by the way, Daryl, if you can get me like a 60-second soundbite when you meet with Mandani, that would be amazing. Thank you, Daryl. But Alfonso, take 5, record 5-10 minutes of it, but if you can get 60 seconds, that'd be great. Cora, thank you all for doing the lifting. Everybody in the audience, all of the nieces and nephews, thank you. We'll be back next Saturday with Ask Uncle Steve with Reverend Scott and the Mod Squad. Next Sunday with Ask the Atheist with Reverend Scott and the Mod Squad. Take care, everybody, and be careful on the clubhouse streets.
Bomba-dee-da, 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 happy trails to you. Bomba-dee-da, bomba-dee-da, he's fine on the land. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song and think about sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Well, you have to, like, it became an obligation. Like, it's beyond unethical to say, I'm going to do harm to your body on the off chance that you might help another person.
America, yeah. I think the problem here, Mohan, is that what you're saying is true about America, but in practice, it's dead. America's become an ethnic tribal conflict zone.
I don't think it's dead, Huddle. I just think we need to kick out 25 million people and have no one enter for like 20 years.
I agree with you, but like, seems to be no.
Okay, so someone's like very attractive, and then they go to the bars a lot, and you know, like for a man, if they could get a lot of women, why would they say no?
I thought that meant remove from the house.
I thought it meant remove from the house also.
Exactly.
I'm with Steve.
Talking outside of the queue again.
Okay, order. So if you guys read it, it does not say house anywhere there. So you can't assume that's what it is.
It doesn't say room either.
Okay, I will finish. I will finish what I have to say, and then I will go on. I'll even drop to the audience after I finish. My understanding is that it meant house. If that is true, then I'm not aware that he was ever kicked from the house. Therefore, she has to be found innocent if the rule means house. And with that, I'm going to remove myself to the bottom.
Thank you. Who's next?
Me.
I know things fall apart. I know this is life, but I still feel shell-shocked by it, and
I also
not
think
capable of. I'm not capable of re-engineering it. That's the thing that's, I think, most disconcerting. Is like
I don't think people have changed that much. I just think your perception of the country has changed. So it used to be that your vibe